All right, ladies and gentlemen from around the world, once again, we are super excited to welcome all of you to today's show, which is the month of June. And as you all know, the month of June is dedicated to celebrate men, fathers especially. And so, uh, today we have the opportunity to have a good conversation around fatherhood. But before we dive into today's conversation, as we usually do, with all humility, let's say a word of prayer and then we will start. Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, we give you glory, we give you praise. We want to thank you for the opportunity to be in your presence, and we also want to thank you for the opportunity to gather and to discuss uh, concerns and ways that we can empower men to be responsible fathers. We thank you for the lives of Mr. and Mrs. Crab, and we pray that God, you will help us to be successful in our conversation and discussion today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right. So, again, as I was introducing the subject, I did mention that June it's usually dedicated to celebrate men, especially fathers, and as it's often known, when it gets to Mother's Day, we will see all the beautiful celebrations. We will see the bouquet, gifts here and there. Unfortunately, we don't seem to see that when it comes to Father's Day, and we end up always fathers thinking or feeling left out. But today we are going to discuss a very important topic as to how we can build strong fatherhood. So, to begin, what do wives and children expect from today's husbands and fathers? What do husbands and fathers expect from their wives and children? And what does God have to do with being a father of today or being today's father? Well, in order for us to dive deeper into this conversation, we are so privileged to have Mr. and Mrs. Crab that will take us through an hour or so conversation. You have plenty of time to ask questions and then we can engage. So today's topic will be a father's heart, God's workshop. And so, folks from around the world, once again, I welcome Mr. and Mrs. Crab to take us from here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jacobs. Greetings to everyone, wherever you are. As Dr. Jacobs posted from all around the world, it is a privilege and honor for us to share this time with you, and thank you for tuning in. We do know that some of you, it might even be past your bedtime. Thank you for sacrificing to stay up, and our prayer is that your spouse, your children will be blessed as a result of what we will be sharing. So, when we say father, just so that we are on the same page, we mean not only biological father, so to speak. We want it to refer to all father figures. So yes, the focus you will hear will be on biological fathers, but also anybody who finds himself in that role, it does apply to you as well. And some of you are saying, oh, I'm not yet, a father. Well, better learn now than later. And, as somebody said, better learn before you get the job. Don't wait to learn on the job. It might be more stressful. So, first of all, we also we would like to establish that the tradition, the old, maybe better than even saying traditional, because it's changing. The old image of the father is that of a strong, usually stern, morally upright, protective provider. Some of you, it already shattered what you were thinking because your fathers were not like that. But this is the view many people have, authoritative, doesn't have time for his children, and wife does his bidding. Women, meanwhile, were supposed to stay at home and raise children. Now you say, no, but that's long ago. Well, the interesting thing is that some people think that's how things should be still, even in 2025. But the truth is that changing attitudes of society about men and women, and we can confidently say all over the world, country after country, these attitudes are changing. You know, men do this, women do that. They're being challenged, not only by, today's generation, but even those in between. My wife and I aren't doing the same things our parents did. We don't expect our children to do exactly the same things, to parent the way we did, or even the roles we played, because they're living in another era. This is a different time. So these changing attitudes, even about men and women, are reshaping how fathers, the role fathers play in their families. Here are a few examples. First of all, more women, are getting formally educated up to university level and beyond. So the concept of a woman staying at home is not working for many of them. Second, men are not the only ones working in offices, making money, building careers, etc. Women also are. So if we both leave home, go to work and come back, why is one person being tasked with the home and children, for example? Those are the questions that are being asked and we have to grapple with. And then, thirdly, child care and household chores are therefore increasingly shared between husband and wife. Child care, household chores are now no longer solely a woman or wife's domain. In the US, for example, since the late 20th century, research tells us the role of women in the workforce has transformed the role of fathers. Between 1948 and 2001, the percentage of working age women employed or looking for work nearly doubled, from less than 33% to more than 60% of women. That itself changes the dynamics, not only in the office workspace, but then what happens in the home as well. Hence, you have daycare and all kinds of arrangements to take care of children. And now we're having people or even companies cleaning homes and doing things that in the past you say, oh, the mother would do, the wife would do because she's quote unquote at home. But even now, you do know a mother at home may be, as we say, working from home. So just at home with children, or keeping house, but she's actually actively in the workforce. And by the way, who says looking after children or looking after the home is not work? But that's another story. So what do wives and children want in a husband and father? This is just a compilation of from different sources. And it's not in any order. Wives and children will want the father to show love to the wife and children. Show love. The word here is, the phrase here is, show love. Don't just have it in your head, I love my wife and children. They want to see it. Second, take leadership for key decisions. Who's taking the decisions? Is it becoming more dependent on the woman because perhaps she's earning more? Third, provide guidance. This is guidance for the whole family. If you're head of the family, then we have to see it. Play a role, the leading role. Provide guidance. And then have a listening ear. Don't only tell wife and children what to do. Listen to us as well. You know, many of us grew up not seeing this happen with our parents. Maybe they did it behind closed doors. But having a listening ear is important. And then be kind. This is another word that struck us. Be kind, especially in your behavior and how you speak to us. And this is both from women and children. Be kind. You know, we see fathers being kind to people outside the home, but in the home they're different. You know. And then we want protection. Protect us. You know, protect us. In the decisions you make, whether it's spending money or plans, protect us. Let's feel we are covered. And then providing for the home and needs. As to be financial contribution and perhaps more. So we'll see. And then be caring. Show us that you care for us. The younger ones especially spell out a few details, you know, being involved in their activities, etc. Don't leave after school activities to mommy alone. You know, because she too, she's working. So then she can't come. And then they have no one seeing how they're doing. And then there's this phrase, they want fathers to help out in the home. Help out with homework, help out with everything concerning them. But note that all these are in addition to the father also being a husband to his wife. So it's not easy. You know, our Nigerian friends will say, "Nawao." To be a man, nawao. It's not easy. But what about fathers? What do fathers want from their wives and children? A phrase that was very significant was acknowledge my contribution, they say. You know, I don't feel like my efforts are rewarded or even acknowledged. Then there is respect, you know, respect. I may not be earning as much as their mother, but at least from her and then on through the children, as father, I should be respected. And then this is linked. It says, don't undermine my leadership and my efforts to guide the children. And a good example is giving counter instructions. Father says children should do this, mother comes, changes whatever it is. You know, the man feels undermined. And then there's this one, support discipline. Support discipline. This is interesting because usually, you know, mothers aren't associated with discipline and it seems to be left to the fathers. And the fathers are saying, well, we may not be doing as much as we should do for discipline because we feel undermined. So tell our wives they should support us. And you'll find this in the literature also. When you do some research, you find this happening. You know, the fathers want their wives to support disciplining the children. Let's have a united front. And then to make time for me as well. This is more directed to the wives. You know, the men want them to make time for them as well. You know, and it goes with the next one. Let me know that you care for me too, not only the children. You know, let me know that you care for me too, not only the children. And this is the last point, and I'm sure men will have more to say in our discussion, but we like this because we think it summarizes all of it. Appreciate my efforts and say it. I want to hear it too. You know. All right. So these are just, as I said, a compilation, you know, of what you would hear men also talking about. What are the specific challenges fathers have to face today? And these are what we think are the 5 key challenges fathers face today. One is time. There never seems to be enough time. From work, from social activities, for everything. There seems to be no time. Everybody, everywhere around the world seems to be running short of time, But then here's the challenge that comes with it. How would a wife and children learn, know, understand, and practice the values a father wants them to have? It takes time to talk, to practice, and to model the necessary behaviors and actions. It won't just happen. With children especially, lessons are best caught than taught. You can teach all you want, but if they see you doing something else, that's what they're likely to follow. It's interesting, but we even find it in Scripture. In 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 1, the Apostle Paul wrote, "Imitate me as I imitate Christ." So then the challenge for fathers become, what do you want your wife and children to imitate? So the first key challenge is time. We don't seem to have enough time to spend with our families, even to be able to pass on the values we want. Second is the pressure to conform or to be different. Today's father is torn between conforming to what his peers are saying or doing, what his wife and children expect, what he learned growing up, and what his culture or traditions demand of him. So here we are. This is what I saw my father do. This is what, now we're living. If you are living outside your country, you can identify with this. Now I'm living in another country, and this is what the men in this country do. So now my wife is wondering, why am I not doing it? My children too are saying, "Daddy, why are you not coming to our school activities?" Well, I didn't see my father do that. But is that enough reason? With all that fathers are being pulled here and there to do, you find that this pressure to conform or to be different affects everything, whether it's showing affection to the wife or even being present at a child's after-school activities. The third key challenge, we think, is that fathers have been slow to adapt to the changing roles. Women seem to have latched on it. They're working, they're earning money, they're going to school, they're building their careers. What about men? Because the women are doing all these things outside the home, the men then have found themselves in positions where they have to take up more. And this is not a Europe or American thing, if you're thinking of that, if you are in East Asia or down under. No, this is the reality everywhere. The times, they are changing, as Bob Dylan sang. Things are different. But we have been slow as men to adapt to the changes. Maybe because we were comfortable with how men, were treated before. So you hear, as I said before, sometimes you hear people say, "This is what my father did. What's the problem with it?" Or like one young man, "I'm even doing much more than my father did. He never came to any of my programs. I have even gone to some. Why are my children complaining? Why are they not grateful? Why is my wife bugging me?" You've also heard people say, "Why can't you be like my mother?" That's what a young man said. "Why can't you be like my mother? She had far more children and never complained that the work was too much for her. You have only 2 children and you are complaining that this is too much. And you are demanding that I should help. My mother never demanded my father should help." But hello, my friends, that's why we say you are not, I'm not, and we are not living in the times. The times are different. Responsibilities are shifting. Responsibilities are changing. Roles are shifting. We need to adapt to the changes. The fourth key challenge that fathers have to deal with
is either an inability or a reluctance to share their feelings, especially with wife. Why do we say so? We say an inability because it's a learned behavior. You know, think of statements, if you are a young man, even older, think of statements like, don't share your tough problems with your wife. Or, you have to face this like a man, take it like a man, take it in your chest, show you are a man, be tough. Now, what do statements like these do to a man? They lead men to internalize health difficulties, problems, rather than seeking real help. And I'm saying real help, you'll soon understand in a few moments. Because what often happens is that when the man seeks out another man to talk about these things with, we're usually looking for another man who would sympathize with us. But these men usually don't offer real help. If anything, they may share their own lamentations. You know how women are these days. You know these African women who are now living in America. You know these women, they come from Asia, they're now living in UK or Europe. You know how it is. So these statements that men share among themselves really aren't helpful in dealing with, what they are really going through. And because we've learned not to share our feelings, and this is not only, a cultural thing, because you find it's generally for men. We found people here in the US, they're not African origin, they do the same thing. A man has to be tough. Tough men don't cry, things like that. These make us think and behave differently. We don't see our wives participating in finding solutions to the difficulties. That's how our minds are framed. That's how we're shaped growing up. And now we are in the position of having to face the issues. We do not see that our wives could be a help. If anything, we think we're protecting them by not letting them know we are having serious problems. Maybe our jobs are under threat. And here's the fifth key challenge. We think in the main, men haven't had good role models on which to build their expectations or to develop any skills or the skills that are necessary for dealing with today's challenges. What do we mean? Just think of how you were prepared as a man to get married. What preparation did you have to be a father? Any teaching directly that as a father, this or that is what you should be doing? Think of issues like leadership. What did you learn? What were you specifically taught about leadership, leading your home, including spiritual leadership? For those of you who are religious, Christian, Muslim, what were you taught in terms of how you should lead your family spiritually, or even how you should just lead as the head of your family? So then, this is where we are now. Whatever we call fathers, across our different backgrounds, here's some interesting facts. Here are some interesting facts. Children with involved fathers experience better mental health. Children raised with active fathers have fewer behavior problems, longer attention spans, they enjoy greater sociability, and are less likely to commit juvenile crimes. Psychological studies suggest that father love has as great an influence on a child's mental health as mother love. This is the time when we're talking more about mental health. So you see, a father love. And what did we see? Wives and children want for him to show love. A father's presence in a child's life, his positive attention and guidance can help a child develop a sense of their place in the world, which includes their social, emotional, and cognitive functioning. Some data from the Pew Research Center in the U.S. on the modern American family, for example, tells us that men are more likely to give children more freedom. Young folks, if you are a young person listening, still in your parents' home, guess what? You bond with daddy, you're likely to get more freedom. That's what the research says. More men than women want to raise children the way they were raised. That's often where there clashes over leadership for child rearing or care. The man wants to raise his children the way he was raised. But what about the wife? She's thinking, you have to think up, and then we clash. And often, you remember we had said earlier about men being worried about their wives undermining them, especially when it comes to instructions to their children. There you have it. A study conducted by the United States National Institute of Child Health and Human Development found that fathers tended to be more involved in caregiving when they had positive psychological characteristics like high self-esteem and lower levels of depression and hostility. Fathers were also more involved when their children were boys. That's interesting because I'm a father of girls. You know, I wonder what my girls will be saying, whether I was more involved or not. Rafael Romanelli, a clinical social worker and a licensed couple and family therapist, has written this: for men, it's important for us to heal our childhood wounds, because that would foster a healthy, more present connection with our sons. If you have a son, it's important because if you are scarred as a man, if you didn't have your father involved in your life, chances are you might do the same to your son. Boys learn intimacy by watching their fathers model vulnerability, not control or emotional distance. So when a boy is crying, yes, he also needs a hug. It's not only the child who needs a hug from daddy. And then sometimes I remember I did this myself for a while as a father before I learned to do differently. Men tend to use more sarcasm sometimes to try to get the child to sit up and act tough or something like that. But here's what the research says: ditching sarcasm teaches your son to communicate with honesty, safety, and mutual respect. So, it's not, you're a boy, you've got to, we might pass on the same things we got. Stop crying. This small thing you're crying, don't say it hurts. You got to, take it in. No. So for boys, fathers need to know that we might even have to spend more time with them. But let's say for both boys and girls, it's been well established that positive parenting behaviors and tactics protect children against keeping things inside. The psychologists, child experts use externalizing to mean disobedience, aggression. When you see a child acting up anytime they are in public, something is wrong. It's not that the child is the problem. Parents, we've got to be looking at ourselves first. What is making my child misbehave anytime they are in public, in school? And then the lack of those factors also can cause a child, depending on the child's temperament, to internalize. So some become anxious, depressed, Why is this child, every time we see you going out the door, they're wondering, hey, I'll go with you, I'll go with you, I'll go with you. When other children are around, you take them to school, they're crying. They want to be with you. No, something is not right. In a recent study examining some of these protections, married fathers who, for example, frequently talked about going to the shops, playing a sport, having entertainment, events, playing games, even doing things like cooking or watching TV with their children, were more likely to have children who didn't exhibit these externalizing or internalizing behaviors. That's interesting. And also, the father's time spent with his child is more powerful, they found, for sons than daughters. Although the protection remains present, whether it's a boy or a girl. Now, for boys also, men need to be aware that children of fathers who treated them affectionately as an infant score significantly higher on standardized measures of cognitive ability, that is measured by reading and math skills, at age 4. It didn't say you taught them to read and write, so just showing them affection made them bloom as kids. Their learning went better. Researchers studied a sample of African American, Hispanic, and Caucasian participants, and the finding remained true regardless of ethnicity. So this is not a white people versus black people thing. It was more fathers who showed their children affection versus those who didn't. For girls, especially before adolescence, fathers play a unique role. Their relationship, that's a father's relationship with a daughter, influences her thinking about what a husband should do and provides the affair's guidance on relationships with men. So here are some selected findings from the research. Strong father-daughter relationships lead to happier, healthier women. In fact, extensive research has shown that fathers make a world of difference in the lives of little girls. It says, father figures who are emotionally invested and active in the lives of their daughters at every stage of their development enables them to have a better sense of self-worth now and in their future relationships. The father's affirmation or the lack thereof will play a role in every aspect of his daughter's life, even influencing her choice of a marital partner. But recent research has also shown that a father's influence in his daughter's life shapes not only her self-esteem, her self-image, but also her confidence and opinions of men. And I wouldn't be surprised if, for some women listening, wives, some of the fights you're having with your husband actually are getting back at your father for what he didn't do. Not so much for what your husband is doing or not doing. A girl's relationship with her father, here's the thing, this is research, documented, empirical research says a girl's relationship with her father can determine her ability to trust, her need for approval, and her self-belief. It can even affect her love life. Men, we've got work to do. Well, the sad part also is that fathers are frequently left out of the discussion when it comes to childhood development, emotional maturity, and mental health. However, according to Dr. Linda Nielsen, who's professor of adolescent and educational psychology, Wake Forest University in North Carolina, here in the U.S., daughters who had strong relationships with their fathers growing up, no matter their economic or educational background, race, or religion, get better grades, go on to make more money, and are more emotionally resilient as adults than their peers who didn't have a strong relationship. It says, no matter their economic or educational background, race, or religion. That means all of us, we can do this, fathers. One thing clear from the research is that fathers matter. Way, we do matter. Professor Nielsen goes on to say that an emotionally absent father can have a damaging effect on his daughter's love life. We're not saying the father is absent. It's emotionally absent father. The daughter who has a fulfilling relationship with her father is usually more trusting, more secure, and more satisfied in her romantic relationships than the daughter with a troubled or distant relationship with her dad. And she adds, this is the case regardless of whether her parents are married or divorced. Sometimes we are hung on, for those who are Christians, we get hung on generational curses. My mother was divorced, so my marriage could end in divorce. Actually, we've had to talk with some young women who are scared of getting into marriage because of how their parents' marriage went. And here is an important finding. Fathers, whether you got divorced or not, whether you married the mother of your daughter or not, your relationship with your daughter can help her to feel secure, more trusting, more satisfied in her romantic relationships. Quote, women who grow up with meaningful, comfortable, conversational relationships with their fathers make better choices in those they date and marry. Sadly, this is Prof. Nielsen asks, sadly, the converse is also true. When women don't grow up affirmed or acknowledged by their fathers, they can suffer from low self-esteem and make bad choices in their lives. They can become needy, clingy, preoccupied with their relationship, and always looking for reassurance from their partner. So, gentlemen, maybe it's not you, maybe it comes from the father she had growing up. And so you have the opportunity as husband now to help her overcome some of these things. So what can we do? We're not left helpless. We want to take it as couples, fathers, wives, and then children and singles. What can we do? First of all, as couples, it's important that we learn to listen to and learn from each other. Why do you keep asking me, where are you going? When are you coming? Maybe it's not that you are, being problematic. But maybe she didn't see her father as often. And she's wondering, is this father also going to be the same? Maybe that's why she's doing that. We need to ask the right questions. So we're saying couples should have conversations around the following questions. First of all, what are your expectations? What do you expect of me as husband and father? What do I expect of you as wife and mother? What is realistic and doable given our circumstances? Both of us go to work, we're on a shift. We kind of sometimes, a lady shared with us recently, sometimes she and her husband, they honk, when they're passing each other. Because by the time he's coming home, she's off to work, or vice versa. That's tough, but that's the reality for some people. What can they do so that they husband and wife feel fulfilled, their children are also catered for. So what is realistic and doable, given our circumstances? You know. And then what do we need, and we're using we for the couple, what do we need to learn or unlearn and do away with? So what do we need to learn? Taking on new knowledge. But then you can't add the new knowledge to the old that's not working. So that has to go. If your father never changed diapers, well, learn how to change diapers. You're the father now. And you do the same, you didn't even have diapers. Then, what will you do differently? Because this is not your father's fault. Then, how can we help each other with our respective roles and responsibilities? This is important because you can talk about what are your expectations, what is realistic and doable, what do I need to learn, but the most important part is what we actually do. And in the doing, we need each other's help. It's today's reality. It's both of us. Not you do this, I will do only that. No. And it's important also, so we like to sound a note of caution here. If you're seeking help, don't focus on talking only to people who will sympathize with you regarding your problems or any, they may not be problems, they may be the things you're dealing with, or who will only tell you what you should or should not do. The question you should be asking yourself is their reality your reality? So talk through these questions. What are your expectations? What is realistic and doable given our circumstances? What do we need to learn or unlearn and do away with? If it means doing a seminar together, go, do it. If it means doing some internet research, do it. And don't read from only one person. Read from different people. That's what we do before we can quote a piece of research. Is this research supported by other ones? Does this, what this writer is saying, receive support in other writings also? Okay, so that's a good point we can share with our listeners. Very important. It's important that also that both of us, spouses, need to be open-minded rather than being defensive or pointing fingers at each other. You don't, doesn't solve. You always, it doesn't solve the issue. No. How about fathers? So since you're good, we the fathers are the leaders, the heads, there's a little more we have to think about. But we think it's important to create an environment in your home so that your spouse and children can talk with you. I want to repeat that. Create an environment in your home so that your spouse and children can talk with you. Not only you giving the instructions, but can they also have your ear? Remember, they said they want a listening ear. So daily, this is what I'm so thankful to God. An older Christian man and his wife actually shared this with us. As father, daily practice having a few minutes with your children. There's not much time. So whatever time you have, find out how they're doing. Don't only ask about schoolwork. That's what your parents asked you. Have you done your homework? There's more to life than their schoolwork. Ask how they're doing. Don't only ask, have you eaten? No. How are you doing? How are things going? Hey, I haven't heard you talk about your friends. That means you know they have friends. Find out who their friends are. A few minutes. I'm not saying do 2 hours a day. You don't have it. And then listen to them. Listen to them. Next thing is make time for your spouse. This is exclusive. This is not the children. Exclusive for your spouse. Actually, women, you can share in this too, not only for the men. Make time for your spouse because the men say, show that you care for them too. Give us some time too, We need some too. So we need to ask ourselves, fathers, We can make all the money, provide everything for our children and wives. But do they really understand what we're doing? Or are we losing them in the process of doing two jobs? Of taking on a little extra. Then the third thing, mind your language. This is a phrase you've read before. But the things we say to each other can get embedded in our minds. And as fathers, our words carry a lot of weight. Not only to our children, but even more importantly to our wives. A word gone from our lips cannot really be recalled. No, it's not like an email you recall and then it disappears. Or something you recall from your WhatsApp or whatever messages you're sending. No. You said it, they heard it, and it's lodged somewhere in their minds, even if you apologize. This is what he thinks of me. This is what he thought of me. Let's be careful the words we say to our children. Let's be careful what we say to our wives. And then, next point, let's make time, see how time comes in again. But we should deal with issues, especially conflicts, early. Not deferring, we'll do it at the weekend, now it's Sunday, what are you doing? And Monday is coming for some people already. Even if you naturally avoid conflict, being a leader means you have to face whatever the situation is. This is where you might need to learn some skills. I came from a home where we could talk about everything. My wife didn't. So imagine some of our first discussions. She'll say something and before she's landed, as we say, boom, I'm into it. I'm already arguing with her. She wasn't used to that. I had to unlearn that to realize in order to relate well with her, in order for us to enjoy conversing with each other, in order for her to feel confident about telling me something, I needed sometimes to just listen. And then I could learn from her. And brothers, when there are issues to be discussed, keeping quiet is not a peaceful thing. Let's not deceive ourselves. Keeping quiet does not bring about true peace. If it did, we wouldn't be worried. If you say you're not worried, you're either lying to yourself or you're ignoring the stark reality that there are issues you have to deal with. And then, last but one on this point about fathers, it's important for us to celebrate small successes. And wives, join us in this also. If I never did the dishes before, and you talk, and after this program, I begin to do the dishes, celebrate that. It's a success. Acknowledge it. That's what we say. Acknowledge our efforts. Say it. Don't just say thank you. Say thank you for doing the dishes today. It goes a long way to boost our energy to be able to do it again. Celebrate small successes. And for us as fathers, we need to celebrate the successes not only of our spouses. A wife gets promoted, hey, you should be her top cheerleader. In the same way you want her to be your top cheerleader. And how about the children? Let's celebrate their small successes as well. Not only at school, but even at home. Potty trained, they're picking up their clothes, they're putting away their toys. Let's celebrate these things. That's how they in turn will learn what it means to be affirmed. And then they'll be able to do it more naturally. And the last point for fathers is this. Well, actually I missed one, but is this. We need to learn to be present. Does that mean we need to reduce some hours? It's up to us. What's your context? What's your reality? and what's doable. Can you do fewer hours and maybe devote 1 hour with Junior or with, one of your children? Watch the soccer game, or take them, actually take them to the soccer practice, Those are things. Will you be around for their birthday or you are busy working? So it's mommy and the children. Maybe you growing up didn't have a birthday party. You think it's a waste of money. This is their reality today, not yours. And it becomes yours too because you're their dad. And they want you around. How about things like if your children go to Sunday school, how about you walking them to their class? So they see you associated with that also. It's not only mommy who's interested in Sunday school. You are too. You're interested in their spiritual upbringing as well. And the last point for the men is to ask God for wisdom. We don't know everything. Some of you are, what does God have to do with all this? Because he says he's the best father. I'll come to that again. How about for wives? Let's make it simple because you joined us on some of the things we will be doing. Observe, acknowledge, and appreciate your husband's efforts, father's efforts, even the little changes, and say it. It wasn't what they put together, but it's important. Observe it, acknowledge, and appreciate the little changes, yes, for you. So that's what a father does, but acknowledge. Not every father might be doing it. Maybe your father didn't, and he's now understood he should do it. So encourage him, because more is achieved by encouragement than by instruction. How about children? We want to encourage children, especially those in teens, young adults, just graduated from college, also, beginning to work and thinking of your own marriage and family. Yes, it's important to open up to your father rather than store up resentment for what he didn't do maybe years ago. It's been bugging you. Why don't you help him to understand what you went through? Maybe your younger siblings will not go through the same thing. Fathers don't know everything. We will humbly admit, and we can learn from our children too. But if you're a boy and you're a young man, you find yourself feeling this way, remember that someday you will be a father too. And what kind of father will you be? Maybe you say, I won't do what my father did, but what will you do? How about for singles? It's important that if you are talking to somebody and it's becoming more serious, or if you've even agreed to get married, this is something you should discuss. Share your own views and then come to a consensus how you would like your home, your life, your relationship to be, what you expect and how each of you will relate to the other. This is important and we owe it to each one. And so what has God got to do with all of this? And why is the Father's heart his workshop? Throughout the scriptures, God teaches us what it means to be a good father. He calls himself the good father. His word instructs us to have compassion on our children. Psalm 103 verse 13. He wants us to guide them on the right path from birth. Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go, she should go. He wants us to avoid provoking them to anger, not frustrating them, respecting them too. This is from Ephesians chapter 6 verse 4. And he wants us to lovingly discipline them. He says so in the book of Hebrews chapter 12 verse 7. Which father is it who doesn't discipline his children? God asks. And God wants us also to model the right values and behaviors. In Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 5 to 9, there's a whole catalog of things God was asking the Israelites to do to teach their children. It's very interesting how he puts it. When you wake up, when you sit down, when you walk along the way, at home, wherever, we should be looking forward to teaching opportunities for our children. And how will we know if we're not learning from the good Father himself? So maybe he wants to start from our own hearts. Like Asile Romali said, fathers need to deal with their own wounds first. What's your wound from childhood? Or maybe you don't have wounds. You have great experiences. But how now can you be able to transfer these experiences or the principles behind them to your children? We all need God's help, because he knows best how we can handle every child. And of course, the saying says, every child is unique. And let's all remember, like Jesus said, if we serve well in the role of being good fathers, we will receive God's congratulations. Well done, good and faithful servant. But here's the good news, even better news, actually, I should say. Because the rewards start here on earth. Good parents, now I'm bringing in the women too. Good parents reap the blessings and satisfaction about their children doing well in life, honoring them and making them proud. This is the season of graduations and from college and from high school. Here in the U.S., we've gone to some, and just seeing the looks on parents' faces when the children graduate. You know, we saw one young lady, first person to finish high school in her family. Another person, first person to finish college, university in their family. The pride, the joy on parents' faces, even grandparents, aunties and uncles. That's blessing. That's blessing. Honoring us and making us proud. How about the two of us, husband and wife? An enjoyable marriage relationship. Less stress if your children are doing well. If you are taken care of, we are taking care of each other. An enjoyable marriage relationship in which both father and mother, husband and wife, feel fulfilled. So fathers, let's allow God to work on our hearts, on our minds. There's a lot we can learn from his word, from principles based on his word. When we apply this, asking for his guidance and wisdom, we're more likely to succeed than fail. And our children will rise and call us blessed. Thank you. We now hand over to Dr. Jacob Sabi for our questions and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Uncle Richard. Thank you, Tim. What a wonderful conversation. And I pray and hope that we've learned a lot. So, as we usually do, if you want to ask a question, and if you're on YouTube, you can put your questions there and we'll ask that on your behalf. If you're on the conference line, you can just unmute yourself, and then you will be able to ask the question directly, and Mr. and Mrs. Crab will respond to that. You can equally send a text message or a WhatsApp to country code +1, area code 571 337 9185, and then we will also ask the question on your behalf. Our usual style is that we will mention the country, but we will not mention the name just for security reasons, because we want people to feel comfortable discussing and asking those questions. And so let's dive straight into our question and answer time, and we are going to begin with a question coming from Ghana. And the question is that, what are the most important qualities wives look for in their husband as fathers today? So that's the first question coming from Ghana.
It depends on every woman. People have different things they look for, so it's not necessarily any one thing. Some people want somebody who will be a loving father. Some people, they just want somebody who is rich, who can, give them money, and they don't look for any quality. It depends on the individual, so that's a difficult question to answer. It depends on every individual.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
But I think like we did share a few things that wives, it included children. So let me just run through them quickly. First, we want a man to show love, somebody who will take leadership for key decisions. And if the person is asking about children, right? Yes, I can say key decisions like, what school they're going to attend, things like that. So if you want them to take leadership, they don't start arguing, I don't like this school, I like this school, and that becomes a fight. You want your child to go to a good school. Providing guidance, having a listening ear, being kind, especially in the behavior toward the children, and also how we speak to the children as well as to the mother, especially in the presence of children. And then to provide for the home and the needs of the children, and then be caring, and then help out with the children, whether it's taking care of them while the mother is away, or different things, feeding them, that help that will be needed, sometimes even homework, things like that. All right, so those are a few ideas as we shared earlier in the presentation. We gleaned from the literature and talking with people in our own work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uncle Richard and Auntie Vivian. The other question, it's also coming from Ghana. And he says that, thank you so much for sharing this wonderful thought with us. From your generation, how have children's expectation of their fathers changed over the past generations?
I think generally it hasn't changed, but I find that today's children want fathers who are more hands-on. If I think of even myself, even my friends, our fathers they weren't that involved with our homework, for example, and of course, they didn't have to do that. We didn't have to do that many projects our children are doing with finding things out, etc. So I find that children are expecting their fathers to be more hands-on. I'm doing this, my father has to help. And I actually remember my youngest daughter, saying to me once, "Oh, my teacher said we can ask our parents to help." So I asked me, whose project is it? Is it yours or mine? Because I think I'm doing more work than you. And she just retorted, our teacher said we can ask our parents to help, so it's okay if you do it. So in that sense, I can't actually picture my father, telling my father he has to help me do the work. It was more of, I didn't understand something maybe in math, and I would ask him, but it wasn't an expectation he has to help me. I think the expectation of fathers being more hands-on is something that today's child faces. And I guess also with things like the internet, and there's so many sources of information, that the children can access. And despite all that, the child needs guidance, even where to look. And that's where parents might come in, So I see that as a basic difference. And also the other thing is, in my generation, we didn't ask that many why questions. We did, but sometimes we were charged very quickly. Why are you asking why? Just do it. And I see that children are expecting explanation for things we're asking them to do. Whereas in our generation, I think we just did it, didn't we? We just did it. If your parents told you do this, you did. It was rare to have. I mean, some children did. Yes, you did, but you don't. Your father tells you to go clean your room. You don't say why. You don't say, oh, I'll do it later. You were expected to get up and go. If you were playing, that was the end of your playing. You see. So that I see has changed. The child asks why, or the child is seeking to negotiate. I'll do it later. Oh, daddy, let me finish this. Oh, mommy, I want to do. Yeah, will you let me go out when I come back? I'll do it. That kind of thing. But those are some of the changes I see. Children are more inquisitive, so they ask why questions. And my generation, we chat with our friends. Some get offended when the child asks why. We tell them their why is not, and they feel the child is challenging the authority. No, the child is asking why primarily to understand, because that's how they're learning now, by discovery. So they're asking why because they want to know. Why do they have to go and do what you are saying now? We didn't ask that. Father said, mother said, jump up, go do it. So we need to be patient with them and be able to answer their why questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So the other question, it's coming from the U.S., specifically from the state of Virginia. But I believe that you may have answered that already. But the question actually came in before probably you responded. So if you don't mind, you can still go ahead and add some few stuff to it. But the question is, what does emotional availability mean to a wife when it comes to her husband's role as a father?
Let me speak as a man, then I will speak as a woman. I learned from my daughters, not from my wife. I learned from my daughters that my availability to them, they're things like, give me a hug. Why don't you hug me? I had to learn to do that. I didn't grow up in a home of hugs. It was easy for me to say, you don't need that from me. I didn't see my father hugging my sisters, but this is my daughter's reality. So if that's what they want, okay, let me do it. They still say I don't hug enough. But that's something I had to learn from them even before I learned in counselor training a father's influence in his daughter's life. And once I caught that, now I thought, boy, I better do it. I don't want them falling into the hands of the wrong types of men. So that's something I can say I learned from my daughters, being emotionally available to them. And I haven't always got it right. Sometimes when a daughter expects that I would hug, I'm dispensing advice. And I've heard it later because we do have that environment in being able to discuss these things. Even with adult daughters. So, Daddy, when I said this, I was expecting that you would hug me and say, things will be all right. But you just sat and you were telling me, well, you could have thought about it this way, or maybe think about it this way. So even though all I was saying was great, it didn't show that I was emotionally vested, or I was invested in seeing them emotionally, seeing the person emotionally overcome what they were doing. And sometimes as fathers, we need to learn that's all we need to do. Just give a hug. That's all. Yes, ma'am.
Everybody wants the fathers to be emotionally available, but sometimes we don't even say it, or maybe the women don't know how to express it to the men, and so they sometimes, because they themselves didn't really have their fathers being emotionally present, so they really don't know. There's something, they know there's something missing, but they don't know what it is. So they don't express themselves very well to their fathers. But every thing that they're doing, show concern and be there with them. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. And there's a lot of learning, and I believe all of our listeners are learning as well. Another question, and this is coming from New Jersey, and it says that what role do wives expect their husbands to play in daily childcare responsibilities? I think you talked about this. Life has changed. Everybody has a responsibility, but I leave that to you, Mr. and Mrs. Crab.
We share. If your wife is off on a night shift, who's going to look after the children? And you have a baby who needs to be fed during the night. She's not going to come back from work to do it. This is your reality. You made the baby, you look after the baby. And it's not always you can have a grandparent, a grandma, being around to help. If your mom had you at 25, you also got married at 25. The mom is in her early 50s. So she's actively working. She doesn't have the time to give to you. If anything, she might use some of her vacation time. And then she's still married. Remember, she got her marriage too. So there's a lot we have to take on ourselves. We can't expect that, our mothers-in-law, I'm talking as a man, father, we can't expect that our mothers-in-law will be able to do it. The reality is they can't. And if you're living outside your country, it becomes even more difficult.
But even if your mother or anybody's mother comes, either the man's mother or woman's mother comes around to help with taking care of their children, the women still want their husbands to be involved, not leave everything. Some people, they just feel, the women are taking care of everything, so they just do it. They just abandon everything to wife and mother, so that because they are there, the wife wants the men to be part of everything, be involved. Don't just leave everything and say that, these people know wiser, so I will just leave it to them. They want you to be involved. So the fathers, be involved, even if you have help, even if you have people around, especially your mothers or somebody who even comes to help. They still want you to be involved.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So our next question also coming from the United States again, and this is actually coming from Ohio. And it says that how important is it for children to see their father as both strong and tender? Again, some of these questions have been addressed by Mr. Crab, but I think, again, Mr. Crab, please permit me to be asking because some of these questions came ahead of your presentation. So just to be fair to our listeners so that they don't get discouraged in asking questions ahead of time, please, you can still throw some light on them.
All right. Thank you. As we said, I mean, for children, both boys and girls, the one thing that stands out in all the research we're doing, they want to see their fathers, as Vivian was just saying, actively involved in their lives. That means not only giving them instructions, being the defender of the home and, the strong, mighty leader. But dad who can come to my level, wipe my tears, wrap me in his arms, and let me know everything will be all right. It's not only mom who comforts. The children want to see a father who can comfort as well. Why is this important? Because the research is showing that it helps the children lay down these skills for themselves. Boys, yes, learn how to be tough but tender also. Girls also know how to receive this. And as some of the research says, it affects their choice of men for their own love life. So this is really important that we are able to show that the times when that father is also sad. Let me pull an example. Father loses a friend or a relative, a parent even. It's okay for your children to see you cry. Why are you crying? Because I lost my mom. Grandma passed away. Grandpa passed away. It hurts. They understand. Oh, so when you lose someone, they're laying it down. You might think they're kids. So you go hide in your room, you cry, then you come out and you are acting tough. And you've told them grandma has passed away, but life is the same. They don't see you in that vulnerable aspect of your life. It's not healthy for them. We're not saying you bawl around them, but let them see you looking sad and say, I've just been thinking. And then when you reminisce about the good times you had with your parents, they also learn from it. Oh, so it wasn't all bad. Oh, but if you have such a great time with grandpa, why are you crying? Say, because I miss him. They understand that, oh, wow, so this is it. You don't have to talk about death is like this. They don't need, philosophical discussion on death and grieving, but they're seeing you, they're learning. And it helps them also to be able to handle these things. And they, in turn, will not internalize, the things they're going through. One of the research findings we read says children who do not see their fathers emotionally involved tend to internalize some things, anxiety, depression, mood disorders. And it says it's for children of all ages. You see. In the same way, if the father is only hard on them, guess what? What they then begin to do is they externalize some of these things. Disobedience, aggression, yes. So we need to have that balance together. That sometimes is the struggle we have. When should I be tender? My son has done something. I have to discipline him, But after disciplining him, what do? Do you also assure him that you do love him? That's also important. And he might wonder, you love me and you do this. He said, yes, if I didn't love you, I wouldn't discipline you. So if they begin comparing with their friend who is allowed to do whatever they want, they begin to understand, oh, maybe his parents really don't love him like he thinks. You see. And that helps our children to have a holistic view of life and living. Life is not always having my way. But there are ups and downs. There are difficulties, there are sad times, there are happy times. They all come with growing up. And daddy helps them, father helps them to see how to handle all those. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now let's go to Georgia. And it says, how do you deal with a father who only cares about providing for their home? At least is giving everything needed at home. And this listener also added, as a way of humor, says that I will listen in for the answer and please be fair to the men. His Father's Day.
So providing for a family is good, but that is not all that there is to life. So if you are working so much and you have no time for the children, you are just providing, there's a lot of things that they lack. You don't have, you end up not having a relationship with the children. They know you as their father who provides for them, but they don't have any interactions with you. So yes, working hard is good, but you have to think about relating to the children also, and so maybe minimize. If you are doing 2 jobs, maybe you should let go of one and be with them sometimes. And what really is your aim? What kind of money are you looking for? And what makes you feel that providing alone is that is what there is to life? Maybe you didn't have much as a child. You lacked a lot of things, so you want your children to have everything, but they will grow up and you realize that they really didn't need all that you thought they needed. But they needed to see you sometimes. So it's good. Talk it over with your wife. If she feels that you are working too much, you have to figure it out, what you can let go of, and so that you have some time with the family. Yes, others are doing a lot. We agree. But you also need some time with the children to have a real relationship with them. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I was quiet because I thought Mr. Crowd was going to add something to it. So,
Oh, she has been fair to the men.
That's good. All right. So, let's go to Sierra Leone, and it says that from Sierra Leone, it says, wow, this is interesting. This is the first time I'm hearing a conversation around fathers, and the conversation is that civil. Wow, so kudos to you, Mr. and Mrs. Crab. But like the person says that, how can fathers create a legacy that extends beyond their lifetime, imparting future generations, not only to their children, but the people around them?
Now it's our turn to say, wow, what's the question? That's part of the goal of this program. It's not for today only, but what will succeeding generations benefit from what we're doing today? The children we have, their children, and then just think of the different ramifications. Those who are listening, who will share with other people. So when you come specifically to the father, we need to remember that, yes, we will have our descendants, but more than that, they're the people who are observing us even. Could be a neighbor. It could be a relative. It could be somebody who attends church with you or with whom you are in a club or some group or association. And they observe you, they hear you, they watch you do things with your children, how you're relating to your wife. These influences, just as we can also be influenced, they can run deep and way beyond what we may have been thinking for ourselves. That's why we take these sessions very seriously. because it might be you listening, but who knows how many people you will influence in your lifetime? How many people are going to be those who will also learn from you and pass on to other people? So just like we're learning, we're sharing with you, you all go on to share with others. As the saying goes, the village is helped. The more people are helped, the less dysfunctional children will have, and the more likely they in turn will have good homes, even better homes than they came from, because they would have had a better foundation to build on. Some of us have had to learn new things, but we've also had to unlearn some things, just like we were saying earlier, But if they begin by learning the right things and they go on to practice them, they would be better positioned even to have more enjoyable and fulfilling relationships with their spouses and children. And that's a huge legacy. No law can bring that about, because the changes that take place in human lives are best not legislated. They're best inculcated in the lives of people. And the things that are meaningful to us, the things that are beneficial to us, some might say a blessing to us, we're more likely to lay down deep into our minds. They become our values, and in turn we pass on to succeeding generations. So it's not only for today. Just like you are saying, wow, from Sierra Leone, who knows? You might travel to Liberia and share with somebody. You might be on the phone to your friend in France and you share something with them, who in turn might share with somebody in Japan. It's something we've done here, out of Virginia. As Dr. Sam tells us all the time, it will go all over the world. That's how we bless one person to the other and to the other. So let's take these lessons, put them together, and let's see how they'll be a blessing to others. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And again, for our listeners, just in case you're on YouTube, you are welcome to type your questions there and we will ask that on your behalf. Again, if you are on the conference line, you can unmute yourself and ask a question. But if you don't want to use any of this medium, you are welcome to as well send your message to us by text or by WhatsApp. Country code +1, area code 571-337-9185, and then we will be able to ask those questions on your behalf. And so we've gone to Sierra Leone, we've gone to Ghana, we've gone to we've been to the US. So now let's go to Nigeria. There's a question here, and it says that what practical steps can fathers take to strengthen their relationship with each of their children individually? I'm asking this question because sometimes it turns out that fathers have their favorite children, and that in itself can also be problematic. So please, your advice will be appreciated. Thank you.
Every child is unique. So you have to, first of all, know your children. That's why you have to get involved in all they're doing. You get to know your children individually. That's how you'll know how to react with them, how to treat them, what to do with each and every one of them. Don't bunch them together, treat them all the same. Don't say things like, why can't you be like your brother? Because I'm not my brother. Why can't you be like your sister? Because I'm not my sister. So know that they are unique and every child is different. And so treat them that way. First, you have to know them and get involved with them. That's how you will know. And please, parents, let's try not to have favorites. The children themselves sometimes will say things like, oh, this one is your favorite. Nobody. In my house, nobody is my favorite. I love you all the same. I treat each one the same. And if I ignore some things or I let go of some things, there is a reason. And sometimes I even prove to them the person who is telling me, oh, you didn't do anything to this person, I let them see what really happened. Maybe you were rather the culprit. I should have done something that I didn't. And so look at it this way. You have to interact with the children all the time. You have to intentionally get close to each and every one of them. Find time. Go out sometimes with them individually. Sometimes do something with each and every one of them individually. You don't have to do the thing every day with all of them. But if you choose today, you go out with this one, you're going wherever, shopping, going to visit some, you are chatting with them, you are getting to know them. So get involved in their lives, and know each and every one of them. Then you can see how you can do it with them so that you don't have favorites. Try as much, because all the parents who usually have favorites, it doesn't end well. We have seen it even in the Bible. If you have favorites, you are creating disaster for your children in future. So try not to do that. With God's help. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. So this is getting more interested, and I'm learning. I'm sure all of you are learning as well. So here's another question, and this is coming from Springfield, Ohio, and it says that, well, let's talk about some modern challenges for fathers. How do fathers navigate technology and screen time boundaries in today's world, where teenagers are even far advanced in technology use than their fathers?
Same for our generation. So first of all, actually, let me share something with you. We were visiting, let me say, a nephew, and he's got his children and his wife, and they were on the screen, while we the adults were chatting, they're doing different things. And then suddenly one screen went off, the TV had been on, and suddenly it seemed frozen. So I thought, oh, what happened? And then one of the children said, oh, it's time. So I'm wondering, it's time for what? It was the time for them to be off their screens. It was a Friday, and Friday they get extended time. So it was past 9 p.m., by which time they would have gone to bed, and they had extra time. And what did the teenage girl say?
It's hard to be a child.
How do fathers handle that? First of all, what we realized was that because they're younger, they understand technology. So the parents, apparently, they had timers for the children's devices. And they were controlling the devices, the internet access, from their phones. So we're sitting with the parents, father picks up the phone, I thought he was scrolling to look for something. Apparently he had opened whatever page it was and had switched off the internet from their gizmos, the devices the children were having. And that was fantastic. I was thinking, man, how did you do that? It was not my generation. So if you don't know, learn. Not every parent might be tech savvy. So learn. Find out somebody who is. Let them teach you how to do it. The reality is that the children, yes, they do know, but let us not behave like they are all knowing. Because if you can control your child's internet access, they won't be able to get on. You know.
Sometimes actually learn from them. Let them teach you. Whatever they make them see you're very into. Wow.
Yeah.
You can do this, and let them teach you, and then you will know how to use it against them. If you don't know, get them to teach you.
I know parents who ask the children, you know, I've heard that, you know, children are able to get around the parental controls. And, you know, they just thought, so yeah, it's very easy. Said, are you sure? I don't believe you can do it. And, you know, they just did it, showed him how to do it. Oh, really? So all he did was find out from his friend, how do I block them so they can't fiddle with parental controls, you know? I didn't have to worry about it. My children grew up in a time when it wasn't, except for one of them, maybe a couple, but we didn't have that much of a problem, you know. But yeah, the younger generation, the millennials, they're really dealing with it now. Because as you see, their children are born with a tablet in one hand and an iPhone or, one of these special phones, smartphones in the other hand. So you have to learn it. The things I learned, or we have learned as parents with technology, and some we've learned from our children. Some, they'll say, don't you know this is so easy. So what do you mean it's so easy? You know, and please, let's be humble enough, let them do it step by step. Don't just give your phone to them and say, okay, go and do it. They'll come, and you still don't know. So if they're not home, what do you do? You know, so learn from them step by step. You know, so I've learned some things I would never have been able to learn. Vivian has done the same thing. She's doing some things. She's on Instagram. I said, no, I don't want Instagram. So, you know, when somebody sends me some Instagram and I forward to her, so you can watch it. You know, things like that. So it's up to us, but we have to learn. But not only learn. When you learn the technology, also learn the, what do you call it? Learn why or the benefits as well as the setbacks, you know, of exposure or overexposure as the case might be. So you don't just tell your children, no, you can't do this. But when they ask the why, you do have the answer. You see. And especially when you answer, research says, daddy knows research, you know. Now you learn it to them too. It's not like they know everything about technology. You also do know. So let's learn together. And, let's be humble enough to learn from them. Have them teach us, actually. And then together we'll be able. And when we talk about creating an environment in your home where you can discuss all kinds of issues, parents and children, this is something you could discuss. Let them know, look, we would like you to use technology. I mean, there's no two ways about it. It's their world, you know, more than ours, we're the older ones. But there are drawbacks we want you to be able to understand. Some of them they talk about in school, but if you, the parent, don't know, as we say, you pass it over your head. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, let's go to Zimbabwe. And it says that when I saw the flyer that was shared by Dr. Jacobs, I kept wondering and asking. So my question is, what does the concept of being God's workshop mean for fathers in their daily lives?
Thank you. So for fathers, as we concluded, you know, we want to be good fathers, and we hold God up as the model father. Think of all of us, different types of people in the world. He says he's our father. He has to deal with all of us. You know, good ones, bad ones, mean, happy, all of that. How is he able to do it? And if you do believe in God, that He knows everything, then you can work with Him. But more importantly, how is our heart His workshop? It's His workshop because what do we do in a workshop? We manufacture things, we fix things, we create things. You know, we when things aren't functioning well, that's where we work. So we think of a father's heart as the place where we're creating new things, new ways of relating to our spouse, new ways of relating to our children. You know, we also think that's a place where things can be fixed. Ourselves, the wounds we have growing up, if we do not deal with them, and who best than God to teach us things like forgiveness, to teach us things like how to overcome resentment, to teach us things like being kind, you know. So the Christian will say the fruit of the Spirit, you know, dwells in the heart. And then it comes out in our actions, figuratively speaking, dwelling in our hearts. So if that's the case, then the more we allow God to take charge of the workshop, our hearts, the more likely we are to succeed. That involves listening to His word. That involves drawing our principles from His word. That involves not our way, but His way. And His way sometimes will be in sync with ours in terms of our likes and dislikes. But sometimes His way might not be in sync with ours. And think of our traditions. This is what men do. This is what boys do. This is what they don't do. This is what girls should. Some of which are now being threatened or have been threatened, you know, because of differences, as you said, in education, technological advancement, and so on. So if we are not allowing ourselves to learn, and that can come from a heart of humility also, and who can help us better learn how to do this than the one whose word says, God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. See how much work God has to do in our hearts, so that our feelings toward our spouse, even when they disagree with us, is not to bully them into submission or even threaten them. But how does God deal with us also? And if He is the good Father, then who better to learn from than God Himself, who has to deal with wayward people, who has to deal with obedient people, who has to deal with wicked people. And yes, everyone is unique to Him, He says. So that's why we say a father's heart can truly be God's workshop. And when we allow God to be doing the work inside of us, healing us ourselves from what we went through that might be a liability in our lives today, then we're more likely to be whole in terms of healed people who can then in turn pass on health and healthy relationships to our spouse and children as we interact with them. So that's it. And hopefully we will all aspire to have hearts where God is actively working, not just once, but always asking for His help so we can do right by spouse and children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Uncle Richard. Before we go to our next question, so there's a comment on YouTube. He said, can you repeat the statement, the best are not legislated, they are best inculcated? I'm not sure if you said something and they needed you to repeat a statement.
Okay, yes, it was, I said the right behavior, you know, so the right behaviors are best not legislated, you know. No, so the right behaviors are not legislated. or we don't get to do the right behaviors because they are legislated, but it's because they're inculcated in us. I'm honest because I learned what it means to be honest and the benefits of being honest. It's not because there's a law, if you lie, you are going to jail. If that's all there is, what do people do? They circumvent the law. You see, but if it's inculcated, if somebody tries to bend the law, what is inside of you reacts, says, no, that's the wrong thing to do. So the right behaviors are best inculcated, not legislated. Thank you.
Got you. Thank you so much for repeating that. So let's come to Virginia, and it's the question here says that how do Christian fathers balance grace and accountability with their children?
I think we did answer this earlier when somebody was asked about being tough and tender.
Yes.
So accountability, is it the father's accountability to them, the children's accountability to the father? So if you're the person is saying grace and accountability, let's look at it from the viewpoint of the father. The father wants children to be accountable. Speak the truth with me. If you don't speak the truth, you get spanking. If you speak the truth, we can discuss what punishment you'll get, what discipline you'll get. There are two things. So there is grace there, but there's still accountability. It's one of the things we taught our children. If you do something wrong and we ask, tell us first time. If we have to be asking for 30 minutes, 1 hour, and going around 5 children to find out who did it, and you were number 2, and eventually we come back to you, you are in bigger trouble. What's the grace? The grace also was letting them know, if you tell us the truth first time, you might not get as serious a punishment as if you lied to us, you see. But it didn't mean that because you've spoken the truth, then everything is great. No. Because we also have to teach them their consequences for your behavior. So, then I've talked about our children, but let's go beyond our homes. One of the things we learned in a group of parents in our children's high school was having a police officer come to speak to the parents of high school freshmen, first year in high school. For many of you, it might be, year 3 of secondary school, maybe, year 2 or year 3 of secondary school, high school, but it was freshmen for them, first year. They came, 15-year-olds. And all the parents were supposed to come with their 15-year-olds to the session. And in speaking, the policeman said, this is in the U.S., so you can understand that. He says, my duty is law enforcement. My duty is not to teach your children what is right and wrong. That's your duty as parents. When they get to me, I will enforce the law. He is not thinking about grace. He's thinking accountability. We, the parents, it sat with me so well. Some parents were upset. They thought he was a bit hard and, but and some actually did say in the question and answer time, and he said, because what I see in my work as a police officer is not something to be happy about. And the way he said it, that's why some parents feel like, he said, they are your children, and he was pointing to us, And so it's your responsibility, not mine. So I'm not going to be nice to you people here, or when I get your children, I'm not going to be nice to them. Oh, Johnny thinks will be all right, and, Kayla, don't worry about it. This is your first time. No. So my job is law enforcement. So it's our role as parents to help children to understand this also. That's why a friend of mine said the home is like a laboratory of training and behavior for life. That's after they've left the home, you know. So what are we putting in them? Are we waiting for the legislation to discipline them? Or we will teach them how to be self-disciplined? That's our choice, not the choice of the teachers. That's not the choice of our legislators. It's a parent's choice whether or not to teach their child discipline and the consequences of it. In the same way we teach our children the importance of being kind, of doing good, and the benefits that come from it. That's our job, not the law. The law doesn't think of grace. Parents can teach discipline and grace, accountability and grace. Thank you.
Wow, what a powerful, powerful way of responding to that. We have just about what? We have just about 8 minutes to wrap up. So I have about 2 or 3 more questions. I think 3 more questions here, and then we'll wrap it up. So let's go to the first one here, also coming from Ghana, and the question is. How do fathers balance wanting respect from their children, their spouses, and maintaining a close relationship with them?
You know, leadership is earned. It is not demanded. So when you are being the leader in the home, you are being responsible. You speak with your children, you teach them right behavior, and you make sure that they do it. They see that, you don't have to be shouting on the children and, screaming on them, but they know you are firm. When you are firm, they know it. And so we need the help of both mommy and daddy to make sure that each person will respect their parents. But you do, and make them see. If you have to ask them, do you know I'm your father? You have to respect me. You've already lost it. But know that you earn your leadership by what you are doing and how you talk with them. They see it, they know. So if you are there, if you are not an absentee father, they know. They see everything that is happening. So you earn it yourself. You don't enforce it. You earn it by all that you are doing with them and for them. They see it. Just be firm. Let your yes be yes. Let your no be no. And, talk with them. Explain things with them. Don't be harsh. They will give you the respect. And if you think mommy is not helping, you can talk with mommy to understand. And mommies, that's what you have to do. Help your husbands, that the children will see that this is the head of the home. Don't give, counter instructions. When daddy has given an instruction, you give another, don't mind daddy, you just do this. You are messing up your own children anyway. So allow daddy, if you think that whatever he's done is not, exactly right, you can talk with daddy, and you both can always make corrections. But don't undermine daddy, and daddy, be the leader in the home. So earn your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our last question, which we have here, it's also coming from the US. And again, I think this has been answered, but for the sake of making sure that all the questions are asked, I will go ahead and ask the question. And the question is, what does it mean for a father to lead his family spiritually? And well, you talked about it. So, uh, if you want to just add few thoughts to it,
Okay, what does it mean for the father to live spiritually?
that's correct.
Setting the tone, setting the pace, and modeling what it means to have a relationship with God. Setting the tone, setting the pace. Issues that relate to, let's start with the Word of God, because there has to be a basis for the behaviors you expect. So, reading the Word of God, if you are a Christian, let me use that, you have to read the Bible. There's prayer, and that's not limited to Sunday worship or Saturday worship if you are an Adventist, but these form essentials for families. So that becomes a daily thing. It's not a difficult thing to do. 15 minutes a day. You can do it before the kids leave for school. It might mean they're waking up earlier, finishing earlier. It's discipline for everyone. Yes, it's doable. We learn to do it. And I'm not a morning person, as the saying goes. But yes, my wife encouraged. And yes, I had to take up the leadership instead of saying, oh, you can play with the children. No, that doesn't cut it. Then the second thing is actually modeling the behaviors. So if we're teaching our children not to lie, what do we do when the phone rings? When we're talking with our friend and we're telling them, oh, I couldn't come to your party yesterday. This thing came up. I was in, New Jersey. You didn't go anywhere. Your child is hearing what you are saying. Next time they are in their room, they have a phone, you're calling them, they're not answering. What will they tell you? Daddy, I was asleep. And guess who taught them to lie? So let's not think that it's only telling them or reading the things in God's word to them, but actually modeling it. And sometimes they learn best when they see us go through adversity. How is daddy handling this? We hear he might be losing his job. We hear some people are losing their jobs. When the children ask you, tell them, I've been praying, and guys, maybe you guys can pray for me too. What are you teaching them to do? How to pray and have God answer. When you don't lose your job and your friends lose theirs, guess what it's going to do with them? And if you lose your job, what do you tell them? Well, sometimes the things we pray for don't turn out the way we want. It's still a lesson they need for life.
So pray with you to get a new job.
That's it. So this is important. And it also has to do with how you relate to their mother. And I'm talking of fathers. So, if they see you mistreating their mother or being nasty to her in different ways, how are you teaching your son to be nice and kind to his sister? That's how men treat women. So he's seeing you being nasty and he's going to do it. So in a nutshell, let's set the tone, set the pace, and model the right behaviors. Like the Apostle Paul said, imitate me as I imitate Christ. It's a challenge for me, my brothers. Let's take up that challenge so we can say to our spouse and children, imitate me as I imitate Christ. It's from 1 Corinthians 11 and verse 1. If you're taking notes, 1 Corinthians 11 verse 1. So let me round up, since this was the last question. Fathers, whether you are called father, baba, papi, pops, daddy, whatever your children call you, remember this. What you do today is not only for today. You're preparing the next generation, and most likely generations after you. So let's learn to do right, and with God's help, we will succeed. And our wives, we need you in our corner. Maybe we haven't done too well, but how about we make a good new start together? We, yes, we, plural, will reap the benefits of working together rather than presenting a divided front to our children, which will further confuse them among the many confusions that they already have to navigate. With God's help, our friends, we will. And so we look forward to being with you again next month. Thank you all, and bye for now. And thank you to Dr. Jacob Sabe and his team as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you all. God bless you. See you next month. Bye-bye for now.
Goodbye.